So, top prospects for the 170 division, currently reigned over by Tyrone Woodley. This was quite tough, actually. I've um, thought about the order, but I'm going to go with Nico Price at number one prospect. Currently 10-0, mainly wins via TKO, but has very solid submission game. I certainly think he could be a future champion. He needs to continue to evolve, but I think by the end of this year, he could even be in the top five. We'll see who they line him up with next and how he does progress this year. Number two, Colby Covington, 11-1. He's been in the UFC since 2014, going 5-1. So calling him a prospect at this stage might be a little bit too late in the game, but I certainly think he's young enough to be on this list. The most impressive victory for him that I've seen was against Mike Pyle. That's when I knew this kid was for real. I think he needs to put together a solid run, and start getting matchups against better opposition. And rounding out the top three, Li Jingling, 12-4, 4-2 in the UFC. Dangerous fighter who could certainly be inside the top 10 by the end of this year. Again, it comes down to how much evolution we see from him to know what the ceiling is going to be. Looking outside the UFC at 170, we find a familiar name at number one on the list. Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov, 13-1. The 27-year-old has wins mainly via strikes. Currently 4-0 at World Series of Fighting. Yes, he's Khabib's cousin, so I think he can certainly improve the ground game. And it's more than likely he'll be terrorizing UFC welterweight sooner rather than later. Number two on my list, Boris Mankovsky, 19 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. Currently KSW or KSW champion in Poland. He's going to fight against the legend and middleweight champion, Khalidov, at the biggest show ever in May 2017. I think depending on what happens there, he may decide to stay and be the flag bearer for that organization in his homeland. They pay very well, and it could take a big offer from the UFC to prize him away. If he loses, it would be a good segue to the UFC, but he's moving up in weight to fight a middleweight contender. One of the guys that's probably seen as the best middleweight, maybe never to fight in the UFC, in Khalidov. I'm not sure whether he's really got the ability to compete with the best in the UFC for the title. So it may even be better for Mankowski to stay in Poland, and be the national hero. But if he manages to beat Khalidov, then all that goes out the window, and he's got every right to claim that he could compete in the UFC, even become a title contender. Number three on my list, 26-year-old Jason Jackson. Currently 7-2. He had a flirtation with the Ultimate Fighter, but I think now he has a better chance in the UFC. He's gone away, got a bit more experience, very well-rounded, and could prove to be a UFC mainstay if he gets another crack at the big time. Number four, Akhmet Aliyev, 14-4. He has a fight coming up against Ultimate Fighter winner Efren Escarudo. I think if he wins that, he'll get his shot in the UFC. It's certainly the biggest test of his career, and from what I've seen of him, I think he could, take that step up. It's difficult to say how much fighters evolve between fights, but from what I've seen of him, I think he's got a solid base, and if he keeps making those steps up in the way that we expect the improvements to be made, then he's certainly got a crack at the UFC. Number five, Beslan Oshukov, 14-2 with a 4-fight win streak, 6 wins via TKO, 6 via submission. So it's fair enough to say he's quite well rounded. He did lose to Steve Carl, who is a tricky customer, but I think Beslan will have learned from that, and he could do well in the UFC. Number 6, Georgi Valentinov, 23 years old and 16-3. He's got a lot of experience early, and I mean that because 11 of those fights have gone to decision. I do have a concern that he's not finishing enough fights and that he may have got too many miles on the clock before he gets to a high level. That said, I'm backing the Bulgarian to make it to the UFC and press on towards the top 10. Number 7, Joey Periotti has the worst nickname I've come across. Oh, let's say one of the worst nicknames I've come across in MMA. He's called himself Mama's Boy for whatever reason. But at 4-0 with 2 TKOs and 2 subs, he's certainly got great potential. Obviously, I think he's still a few fights away from the UFC. I would say 2018 at the earliest is what we'd like to see him. But he's definitely got the potential to be a deserving number 7 on this list. Number 8, Wade Johnson, known as the Hammer. This guy is 11-1, and he's already got wins in Bellator and World Series of Fighting. The record is impressive. I'm not sure that he can close the holes in the game and evolve to be a top-level UFC fighter. I think the UFC is in his future, and it's up to him and his coaches to close those holes, to let him compete against top-level opposition. Number 9, Joey Black Ice Davis. He's only got 1 win, but with an impressive 133-0 NCAA D2 record, he certainly has the chops to compete at the highest level. I really haven't seen enough of his striking to know if he's got what it takes to compete at the highest level as a well-rounded fighter. I've heard a lot of good things about his karate, but he's a very exciting and dangerous prospect. That's why he's at number 9 on the list. And the last guy, number 10, Ken Hasavagi, 14-1-1. The only defeat coming against highly touted Brendan Ward at Ryzen. He still has things to work on and kinks to work out in the game, but he could end up as a top competitor in the UFC 170 division. He is a former heavyweight, and I think he carries that power with him even when he's cutting down. So that's the top 10 in the welterweight division. Let me know what you think, if I've missed anyone out. If I've got it wrong, I'm sure you'll tell me. We'll come back in a year and see how I did.